Hey everyone, welcome back. Today, I want to share a story that sounds like it's straight out of a Hollywood movie, but it's absolutely true. It's a story about survival against all odds, a testament to human resilience. It begins on Christmas Eve, 1971. Imagine this. It's December 24th. LANSA Airlines Flight 508 is departing from Lima, Peru, with 86 passengers on board. Their destination is Pucallpa, a city nestled in the heart of the Amazon. The mood on the plane is festive. It's Christmas Eve, and everyone is excited to be with their families for the holidays. The flight attendants are serving breakfast, and everything feels completely normal. But as the plane starts its descent, the clear sky gives way to ominous dark clouds. A massive thunderstorm is brewing right in their flight path. The pilots, facing a tough decision, choose to fly directly into the storm instead of attempting to go around it. Suddenly, the cabin is plunged into darkness. A deafening roar of thunder fills the air, and the plane begins to shake violently. Luggage flies out of the overhead compartments, hitting passengers. For 20 minutes, it's pure chaos and terror. People are screaming, crying, and praying. Then, the unthinkable happens. At an altitude of 21,000 feet, a bolt of lightning strikes the right wing. The fuel tank ignites, and the wing is ripped from the body of the plane. The aircraft spirals out of control. As it plummets, it begins to break apart. Just 15 minutes before its scheduled landing at an altitude of 10,000 feet, Flight 508 disintegrates in the sky. Down on the ground, air traffic controllers watch in horror as the blip representing the flight simply vanishes from their screens. A massive search and rescue operation is launched, the largest in Peru's history. But the Amazon rainforest is a dense, unforgiving jungle. It takes days for rescue teams to even locate the crash site. When they finally find it, the scene is heartbreaking. Wreckage is scattered over miles of dense jungle. Luggage, burst open during the fall, hangs eerily from the trees. Christmas presents, meant for loved ones, are strewn across the forest floor, like tragic decorations on what some called a twisted Christmas tree. The search team scoured the area for days, but they found no survivors. The official conclusion was devastating. All 92 people on board had perished. After all, how could anyone possibly survive a fall from 10,000 feet, let alone the unforgiving jungle below? It seemed like a completely hopeless situation. But what the world didn't know was that the story of Flight 508 wasn't over. In fact, the most incredible part was just beginning. One person had survived. Her name was Julianne Kopke, and she was only 17 years old. When the plane broke apart, Julianne, still strapped to her seat, was thrown out into the open air. She fell for 2 miles, spinning through the sky. She recalls the wind whistling in her ears and seeing the jungle canopy spinning below her like a giant green broccoli. The row of seats she was attached to acted like a sycamore seed, rotating and slowing her descent just enough. And then, miraculously, she crashed through the thick leafy canopy of the jungle. The dense foliage cushioned her fall, breaking what would have otherwise been a fatal impact. When Julianne woke up, it was the next day. She was lying on the forest floor, alone. She had a broken collarbone, a deep gash on her leg, and a concussion. Her vision was blurry in one eye, but she was alive. All around her was the deafening sound of the jungle. She called out for her mother, who had been sitting next to her on the plane, but only the sounds of insects and birds answered back. She was utterly alone, injured, and lost in one of the most dangerous places on Earth. What would you do in that situation? It's almost impossible to imagine. Most people would have given up, overwhelmed by fear and despair. But Julianne was different. Her parents were famous zoologists who had founded a research station in the Amazon. She had spent years of her childhood living in the jungle with them. They had taught her about the dangers, but also how to survive. Her father had once told her, "If you're ever lost in the jungle, find a stream and follow it. It will lead you to a bigger river, and eventually, to civilization." This piece of advice became her lifeline. Clinging to that single hope, Julianne started to walk. She had lost one of her shoes and her glasses in the fall. The jungle floor was a treacherous mix of mud, tangled roots, and venomous snakes. The air was thick with humidity, and swarms of mosquitoes attacked her relentlessly. She found a small bag of candy at the crash site, which was the only food she would have. She found a small stream and began to follow it downstream. The journey was excruciating. The gash on her arm became infected, and maggots began to infest the wound. She remembered seeing her family dog have a similar infestation and how her father had used kerosene to clean it. This memory would prove to be vital. She walked for days, wading through water full of stingrays and piranhas. At night, she would try to sleep on the riverbank, terrified of the creatures that prowled in the dark. She was starving, weak, and in constant pain. After 9 days of this grueling trek, she was on the verge of giving up. Her body was failing, and her hope was fading. And then, she saw something that made her heart leap. A small boat, moored on the riverbank. It was the first sign of human life she had seen in over a week. She was so weak she could barely crawl towards it. Nearby, she found a small hut and a can of gasoline. Remembering her father's advice, she poured some gasoline on her wound to clean out the maggots. The pain was immense, but it worked. She spent the night in the hut, waiting, hoping. The next day, she heard voices. A group of local lumberjacks had returned to their camp. When they saw her, they were stunned. They thought she was a yamanya, a local water spirit. Her eyes were swollen, her clothes were in tatters, and she was covered in insect bites and wounds. Julianne spoke to them in Spanish, explaining what had happened. They were amazed. They gave her food, tended to her wounds, and the next day, they took her on a 7-hour canoe journey to a small village. From there, she was airlifted to a hospital in Pucallpa, the very city she was supposed to have landed in 10 days earlier. The world was shocked. News of the miracle girl spread like wildfire. She was the sole survivor of a crash that everyone believed had no survivors. Her story is a powerful reminder of the will to live and the incredible knowledge passed down from her parents. She didn't just survive the fall. She survived 10 days in the Amazon jungle, alone and injured. Julianne Koepke went on to follow in her parents' footsteps, becoming a respected biologist specializing in bats. She even returned to the crash site decades later for a documentary, facing the ghosts of her past. Her story isn't just about survival. It's about resilience, courage, and the power of knowledge. It shows us that even in the darkest of moments, a sliver of hope and the right skills can make the impossible possible. What an absolutely mind-blowing story. It really makes you think about what you're capable of when faced with the ultimate test. Thank you so much for watching today. If you found this story as incredible as I did, please hit that like button and subscribe for more amazing true stories. See you in the next one.